Hi everyone, it's Michael again. On this series of Java YouTube video for beginners, we'll be talking about variables and data type. So, if you've watched our previous video, you will understand exactly what we have right in front of our screen because our last video we were able to print, or should I say, write our first Java code, and the name of the project was actually Hello World, and where we were able to print Hello World on our screens. But this series we're going to be talking about, on this particular playlist, we'll be talking about variables and data and how we can store them. So let's start with variables. Variables basically are used to store data in Java. In this video, we're going to learn the different data types and how to use them properly with simple example. So I will say, don't worry if you're new. I will make it very easy to understand. So let's start by what is variable. What is a variable? So think of a variable as a container that stores data. Just like you store water in a bottle. We store value in variable also. So for example, if I want to store your age, I can just I can just simply, I can use a variable to store the age. So I'm going to show a sample for you of how to, store a variable. So for instance, I want to store your age. So I'm going to be using the ints because they're basically number. I will actually explain this, going forward in the course of this video. So your age, I'm going to say, is equals to 25. So what did I just do? The int is the data type itself. And your age on this part, sorry, I think I made a mistake there. Your age here is what is called the variable name. So, and the 25 is the value stored inside that variable. So, basically, the common data type basically the common data types now, examples are like, the most common data type in Java. Let me put it that way. And we're going to now look at, other data type in Java, going forward in this course of this, we're going to talk about integer, we're going to talk about the double, we're going to talk about the char, that means the single character, we're going to talk about the boolean, we're going to talk about the string also. So I'm going to show you an example of what a double looks like, because I just showed you an example of what an integer is like. So when you say, like I explained, initially before, the data type is the int, the variable name is the age, and what we're storing inside, the variable is the 25. So the same goes with the boolean. Sorry, the double. So the double basically goes this way. We say double, right? For instance, price, which is equals to 19.99. Unlike the integer, the double basically, I will use the word, we can use it to store values that has kind of like a decimal point, so that it's not always a whole number. Let me put it that way. I mean, the term we use in arithmetic, so it's used for decimal value, like money, or for measurement and so on, like that. That basically is not a whole full number. It's not used for a whole full number, unlike the integer that has a whole full number. So the next one we'll be talking about is going to be the char, which is also called the single character. So an example of the chart is this. It's going to also have chart. We're going to call it the grade. We're going to call it equals this, and we'll close it with a semicolon. So basically, this is used to store a single character. Basically, you can notice it uses a single quote, and also we're going to be talking about the boolean. That means this one is what we say the true is either it's going to be true or it's going to be the false. So an example of the boolean is going to be, excuse me, boolean, let's say is Java fun. We're just going to say true. And basically is used for yes or no or true or false value. That's what boolean are basically used for. I mean, in the course of the video, we'll be going into a few mini project that we're going to be making use of most of this data type, and we'll have proper understanding of them going forward. I'm going to talk about string, which is I think is one of the most common one among is the most common one among them, putting it that way. So when we try to talk about string, what are strings? Basically, an example of a string is, for instance, I'm going to use my name on the course of this video. I'm just going to say Michael, and I'm going to close it with semicolon. So basically, they are used to store text. They are majorly, most of the time they are used for. We always make use of the double quote when we are actually talking about string in Java. So the next part I would like to talk about is basically changing variables value. Yes, you can change variable values. You can decide to declare a variable as a particular value and decide to change it in the course of maybe you're writing your program. I will still talk about a part, the only situation where you cannot change the value of your variables is going to be if you actually make it a constant. This is what we're going to talk about, in the course of this video. But let's just stay focused so that we don't, divert into that part yet. So I'm going to use an example of a variable that we can change the value. For instance, I said, initially, okay, let me just use the int age is equals to 25. So I can decide to say age equals to 30. So what does this mean? It means the value age in the int above, we have already changed it to be 30. If the variable basically here is going to change 30, if we try to print age at this point, the system dot out dot print, I will say age. If we run this method, right? If we run this method, which is going to take a while, a little bit. Okay, it's building. And you can see that instead of saying the value is equals to 25, it gives us as 30. You can see the value here. So you can actually change value. Also, of course, I spoke about printing in the previous video. Printing is basically printing what your value is. The print value basically stores is just to understand that the value is stored in the variable, not actually really in the printing. And also an example I can decide to say, just to make it more to add more to it. So I will also be talking about concatenation. So but I'm going to make use of that here. I can decide to say so that's an example of it. I can say my age is what? That. I can, if I decide to change it to like this, it's still going to add, it's going to change, sorry, it's going to nullify this. Let me use that term and make it 45. So if I try to print this, you can see that my age is 45. So it depends on what you put there. If you decide to make it 12 and you try to print it again, it's still going to give you the same value as 12. So I would like to talk about the common bigger mistakes. You can see it's printing 12 for us there. I'm going to talk about the common bigger mistakes that beginners basically make. I mean, you don't have to really worry about that. Everybody always, because thing is, making mistake is part of the learning process, right? So, but one of the common mistake that developers basically make is having, for instance, their string and forgetting to put the quotes there. Sorry, 1 minute. Having your string and forgetting to put the quote there. Sorry, that's okay. That's me using the same value, and it's going to say it's a duplicate. So I'm just going to add one extra name to it, and just saying, for instance, Michael, and that this is going to give us an error because we forgot to make use of it. And if we try to even run this, it's going to give us, it's not going to print out the value for us. Sorry, it's going to bring the string for us. It's going to return it back to us as an error, right? You can see it saying cannot find symbol and this, and class main, and it's just trying to let us know where the error is coming from. Or maybe if you decide to do something like this, right? You can see too many characters. That's let's just say even Mike. And if you try to print that, also we're still going to get error. These are the common mistake that a lot of beginners basically make in the course of that. And in most cases, if we find ourselves in this situation, we don't have to panic. We just need to have that understanding that your string basically comes with a double one, and basically you have to try as much as possible not to put the double quotes whenever you're trying to refer to the string, rather than making use of a single quote or not having a quote. So I think now you have an understanding basically of what variables are and data type in Java. Basically, these are basically the building blocks of programming. Let me put it that way. And also in the next video, we'll be talking, we'll learn about what operators are, which basically allow us to perform, calculation. And also we'll make sure, try as much as possible and, make sure you subscribe to this, to my YouTube channel. It's going to be very useful for you because, you'll get notification as time goes on the latest video on this course, and so that you can be, every single time we release new videos, and you can actually get the notification on the go. Thank you so much for your time. This is Michael again. Stay tuned and see you in the next video. Bye for now.